Welcome to The Culture. We rest at the pulse of the community, providing all things news, music, fashion, events, and everything that we talk about in between. It's a lifestyle. We are The Culture.
Good day, and thank you for joining us. Our show this week is brought to you by Florida for All. This August, let's vote for candidates who will fight for what matters most. Vote by mail, vote early, or on Election Day, August the 18th. And joining us today is someone who knows a lot about voting. It's Senator Dwight Bullard, who is the political director for the New Florida Majority, as well as the president of the NAACP South Dade chapter. And of course, he is friend to the show. Welcome so much, Senator Bullard. Thank you for joining us.
Good to be here, Jessica. Always happy to be here for the culture, no doubt.
Yes. I love it when we're able to talk one-on-one. And you were our first interviewee on the show. So we're so happy to have you back, especially because I believe we talked a little bit about this upcoming election and reminding people to do their homework at that time.
Indeed. I'm so happy to be back, and happy to first give kudos to the culture for really providing a platform for these kinds of conversations. We're living in this virtual world right now, and so it's so important that folks are really understanding the content that they're looking at. So thank you for being diligent in that effort.
Well,
and
thank you.
So we're literally in the midst of an election as we speak, right? I mean, vote by mail ballots are out. I think at last count, statewide, there were something like almost a combined 2.5 million vote by mail ballots that were out. So there are a lot of folks out there that are active and involved in this election. But early voting is also happening. And so I know we're going to talk about Miami-Dade a little bit, but it's important for folks to know that literally until 7 o'clock all this week, you can go to the polls, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. At 20 plus early voting locations around the county. I know for us South Dade folks, we have Coral Reef Library, South Dade Regional Library, as well as the Dickinson Center down in Homestead are all early voting locations that are in South Dade. But we want to make sure folks are going there. And just a reminder, you can go to any one of them. That means
I was just going to ask you to clarify that for our viewers.
Yeah, the difference between early voting and election day is the fact that you can go to any one of the 22 early voting locations around the county and cast your ballot. So you could live in Cutler Bay, but happen to be in Miami Gardens that day, so you can go to the North Dade Library. If you happen to be from Liberty City and happen to be down south on that day, you can go to any one of the locations. I give credit to the supervisor of elections. There are physically 11 locations south of Flagler and another 11 locations north of Flagler, both east and west. So pick one of them and please go cast your ballot.
Perfect. I think that's very important. I always get my mailed to me just so that I can see what's on the ballot, and then I take that ballot right on with me to the poll. And
But I forgot to touch on that. I know a lot of people have those vote by mail ballots, and you can actually take them to the early voting site and drop them off there. So you don't even have to enter the building to cast your vote again. They actually have a booth set up outside many of these locations. Actually, all of the locations have someone there who will receive your ballot. All you have to do is physically take it there, but make sure you're signing and dating the back of it so we count those ballots.
Yes, excellent point. Thank you. Did you get a chance to see Today in South Florida on Sunday with Michael Putney?
I did catch glimpses of it, and I was thoroughly impressed by, one of the people I'm excited to have, had the opportunity to work with in her previous capacity, but endorse her as part of this organization that I'm a part of, and that's Melba Pearson. She did a outstanding.
That was the race I was going to ask you about. Did you see that state attorney? I guess I didn't want to call it a debate, but it pretty much turned into a debate. I believe it was supposed to be maybe a forum, but it was a debate. And it was.
I mean, and it should be heated. I mean, you're talking about an office that determines someone's livelihood at the end of the day. I mean, the state attorney's office is one of those things that a lot of Miamians haven't thought about, right? And that's because the current state attorney has been in office for 27 years, since 1993. Has only been challenged twice in that time period. And so I would, remind folks that this is a real opportunity to take a look at somebody in Melba Pearson who has experience, who understands the lay of the land, and knows exactly what she's doing. I've had a chance to work with her as a colleague when she was at the ACLU of Florida. And so bang up job she did on Michael Putney, and I really do think she's going to bring exciting changes to that office. And I would encourage folks to vote for her.
I was so tickled. She got a question, she responded, and then Rondo decided that she needed to rebut what she said, and it made it look like that Melba didn't know what she was talking about, and then she was asked another question, and Melba responded, no, I need to clarify something that was said. I talked about cases between this date and this date that were nonviolent offenders, and Rondo decided to address a case in 2018 outside of that scope, and that was a violent offense. So just wanted to make sure that you knew that I was speaking about something else. But the answer to your question was, oh my goodness, I clenched my pearls. It was just such a great moment in TV. Such a great moment.
It is. I mean, I'm a big fan of Law and Order SVU. That's one of my favorites. So whenever you have a litigator or a lawyer who's like really on top of their stuff, it's always exciting to see. For folks who used to watch LA Law or the Perry Mason crowd or the Matlock folks who used to watch TV, all those different things. I mean, the thing I appreciate about Melba is that she does bring a dynamic personality to the space. And he's a big fan of Beyonce.
Oh,
shout out to Black is King, right?
Black is King. There you go. Well, there you have it. And then what was the other cop movie? Not movie, but TV show with Malik Yoba?
Oh, New York
Undercover. Now let's go ahead and jump into mayor. I pulled up the campaign records to make sure that I list every candidate who has qualified for mayor. You have Monique Barley. You have Commissioner Bovo. You have Commissioner Levine Cava. You have Diarmas, okay. What about this one? Damond, yeah. Damond. Mm-hmm. Okay, you have Pinellas, Commissioner Suarez, and that is it.
Yeah, you have this is probably one of the more diverse groups of mayoral candidates that we've seen in a long time. And first of all, credit to anyone who throws their hat in the race for mayor in this county. You're talking about a $9 billion budget. You're talking about literally one of the most diverse counties in the country. So big kudos. So you have 3 current county commissioners running for office. You have a former mayor in Alex Pinellas. You have someone with a real estate background in Ms. Duman. You have someone who's coming from an immigrant background, not unlike some of the other folks in Mr. Diarmas. And you have somebody who's, born and raised in Liberty City, and someone like Monique Barley. So you do have diversity of representation, folks from different communities. So I'm excited to see such a wide group of folks doing it. But Florida for All has made it a point to put out some recommendations. And so the recommended candidate for Florida for All is none other than Commissioner Daniela Levine Cava for mayor of the county. And so, again, brings a lot to the table. She's worked with organizations like ours before. She actually helped found an organization by the name of Catalyst Miami that does a lot of work around climate issues, issues related to voter engagement, et cetera. So she does bring a particular resume that really appeals to a lot of the folks who work with our organization.
Mm-hmm. And she is no stranger to just trying to fight for underdogs. I've noticed her work in the community. And then she was just endorsed by the Miami Herald.
Indeed. And then, just to bring it completely home, she has a Killian Cougar on her staff. I mean, so
wow.
that who's her chief of staff. Shout out to Jason Smith.
Yeah, I was going to say, are we talking about Jason?
Yeah, we're talking about Jason. We won't hold the fact he went to Howard University against him.
Well, I mean, HBCUs all day. So we'll just say that that's great. I mean, because at the end of the day, we're not going to agree on the HBCU.
This is true, but we can both agree that Howard's not it. So
we definitely can agree on that. No shade intended, but shade thrown.
Little shade.
Yeah. Okay. Let's look at this race. The next race I have on this campaign funding list. Let's talk about the property appraiser.
Yes.
Property appraiser.
Now, as kind of like a lot of people look at this race and like, I didn't know this was a thing. I didn't know this was an elected position. But the reality is that the county runs on property taxes, and the appraisal process, how much your home is worth, is going to be a factor in terms of how much money the county then generates for things like buses, or for zoning as it relates to schools, making sure that your streets are paved. All the things that county has resources for are all tied back to the value of the homes that we occupy. And so that office has been under the leadership of the current property appraiser for some time. He is on the ballot again, but I think the distinction between him and his opponent, who's also been endorsed by Florida for All, Marisol Zatino, is the fact that she wants to modernize the office. Like the idea that some of those services are not online, that there is no kind of ease in the process, is one of the things that she really hopes to bring to that office. And so I'm excited at that kind of a change. And not to mention, at the end of the day, you might have seen a theme here with these particular candidates. We need more women in elected positions across the board, and we need a diverse group of women to bring things to bear. And what I appreciate about Marisol is she's unapologetically Afro-Latina, and I want to put that emphasis on that, is that she recognizes, like, unfortunately, a lot of folks don't recognize the legacy of melanin and Africanness in the Hispanic and Latinx diaspora. But she says that, hey, I'm embracing that. And so, I'm excited for the not only the energy, but what she plans to bring in terms of access to the property appraiser's office.
Wonderful. Now, just to reiterate, that is the property appraiser, and that is there's two candidates, Pedro Garcia and Marisol Zentino.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Those two. Let me take you back to 2 weeks before we wrap this episode up, because we're gonna come back with another episode where we're gonna go through other offices. But I wanted to ask you, you had the opportunity to be the MC host for a mayoral debate. Who did you feel like, I know you're recommending Kaba, but did anyone surprise you with that, other than the people in the that were what do they call, the guests that were there with those questions?
Right.
Other than the surprises for that, did you have anyone that surprised you at that debate?
I mean, Listen, I'm impressed, and I happen to know many of the folks that are running. So at that particular forum, was definitely impressed by Mayor Pinellas. Uh, Commissioner Levine Cava, again impressive. Commissioner Suarez was impressive, and really Ludmilla Duman was very impressive at that.
I was impressed by her.
Yeah, and so not to discredit again anyone else, but since you asked the question, absolutely those four kind of stood out for me at that particular forum, and really kind of held their own.
And who do you think? Because obviously there's not going to be a winner in the primary. Who do you think are going to be the last two standing outside of Commissioner Cava?
Ooh, well, it's only, I'm hoping for Commissioner Cava, and then who's the other person? I mean, I'd be okay with Mayor Pinellas. I'd be okay with Commissioner Suarez, in both those spaces. But I really do think I'd like somebody who's, I guess, from the more progressive or liberal side of the dais, if you will. And I know that Mayor Pinellas and Commissioner Suarez have supported a number of issues that are important to especially Black communities.
Yes, because on the complete opposite end is the other guy.
Is Commissioner Bovo.
Yeah, wow.
Who I served with in the legislature, but he and I have never agreed on anything fundamentally. We're on two polar opposite sides of the political spectrum. And I respect his thought process, but I'm always of the belief that government should be in the business of trying to solve some of the issues and some of the problems. And so he's of that kind of very conservative mentality of like government should never interfere in people's lives. And the reality is that government too often interferes in people's lives in a negative way. Whether that is how police show up in communities or the lack of transportation infrastructure, all that's tied back to government. So I want somebody who's thinking about how to deal with those problems. Like, let's talk about how we get the rail down south. Let's not, always think, oh, well, we can't do it or we can't get it done now. I need to know who's going to help me get it there, right? And if it takes years to do it, that's fine. But I want somebody who's thinking about how we get it done and not just saying that it can't be done for reason X, Y.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to serve under him on the Miami-Dade U.S. Census Task Force. So wonderful man, well respected. Just was not happy with the things that he was saying about the independent civilian oversight panel. I mean, I could not understand why you did not understand that this is happening to even your constituents and you're not even open to having a discussion. That was just very enlightening for me. But that's going to do it for this edition of The Culture. We want to thank our sponsor for today, and also let you know that we will be coming back with a part 2 of this. Thank you again to Florida for All. Thank you, Senator Dwight Bullard, for your insight on those candidates. And we will see you right back here on Friday at noon. On Facebook Live or on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on all of the platforms to make sure that you're up to date with what is going on. Any closing thoughts, Senator Bullard?
Just make sure you go vote. You can't sit this one out. We need everybody to show up and show out in order to make this election real.
Touche. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time right here on The Culture.
The Culture is produced and owned by Hip Rock Star Media and cannot be reproduced or broadcast without written consent by Jessica Garrett Motkins. All rights reserved 2020.